And we're live.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone. As a reminder, we're going to be talking about spoilers for Towers of Midnight. So if you haven't read it, please don't watch this unless you want to be spoiled for it. And we definitely are going to have a lot to discuss. Figured we'll start with just our overall thoughts and feelings. And my overall thoughts and feelings was that it was really good. I mean, I don't really know why I wouldn't have thought that. These last few books, I think, are just done really well. But yeah, I loved every single second of this book, and there were so many like really cool things that happened. What did you think, Roya?
I also thought there were a lot of really cool things that happened. I still think the previous book is probably my favorite one, but this one was also really good.
Yeah, I was trying to think about that before this, like which one was my favorite between the last one and this one, since they're both by Sanderson. And I think I do like the other one slightly better, just execution wise, but I don't know. I like some of the stuff that happened in
Yeah,
this
so
book.
the stuff that happened in this one was pretty epic.
Yeah. I am trying to pull up my channel so I can watch the chat. So what were some of your favorite things that happened in this book?
Well, I kind of liked Perrin's reaction to finding out that Magdan is more gays. I think I think it is kind of funny that it took that long for him to figure out, even though she was giving him advice about how to be a lord and all this other stuff, like
I know.
with
That was
people
pretty funny.
and all that stuff, the way that he should and shouldn't, et cetera, like the whole, the whole time that she's been traveling with him so far, and he like still had no idea who she was at all.
I couldn't believe that Fail's reaction was that she was mad. I mean, I guess I get it because they went through a lot, but like, I don't think she should have been mad about it. Like, she should have understood why Morghese didn't say anything before that. That moment, like, a couple pages. Okay, so when Perrin and Galad sat down and started talking, and I realized somebody was there serving tea. That's when my light bulb went off. Like, it wasn't until that moment that I was like, "Oh my god, it's going to happen!" And so I gasped, and I was in bed with my husband, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yes, but something exciting is about to happen in my book." I was so excited for them to find out, and yeah, I saw it coming like a page or two before that. I don't know why it didn't occur to me before that point, but it wasn't until that point that I was like, "Oh my god, it's about to happen." So, and Perrin wasn't all. I mean, he didn't figure it out, but he also wasn't like super surprised. He was just like, "Oh, well, that's interesting," and just kind of like brushed it off. I felt like,
Yeah, he hadn't expected it at all. It's so weird.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, I was annoyed that Fail was mad about it, that she kept that secret. But I mean, it makes sense why she kept it a secret. So
Yeah, exactly.
I have so many favorite moments, but probably my absolute favorite moment or thing that happened in this book is basically like the big finale where they save where they save Moraine.
Yeah, I figured that's what you were gonna say. Yeah, I love that whole part.
Yeah, I was so nervous about them going in, especially after Matt had talked to Brigitta and heard about her failed attempt to go in there, and I was just like, this is not going to be
So
good.
horrible.
I know, but he was really smart about it, and this series, even though I cry really easily, I haven't really cried that much in this series. Like, I don't think I've cried at all up until this point. I might have cried on my first read, like when I think I probably cried on my first read when we thought Tom died and when we thought Moraine died. But other than that, like this book, even though I'm like really attached to these characters, not that many like really important characters die. So like I haven't been super emotional about it, but I cried when Noel died. I didn't see it coming. Like I didn't think that they were going to go because not a lot of like really important characters have died. Not that Noel was like that important, but I didn't think anybody was going to die on this mission. And that thing happens over a couple chapters, and I turned the page and the title of the next chapter was the one they left behind, and I was just like, oh my god, somebody's gonna die.
Oh
And
my
yeah,
god.
I was really upset when Noel died.
No,
I
I knew as soon as they knew they needed a third person, I knew that whoever that third person was gonna be
that
was
they
not
were gonna
gonna
die.
be. Like, because they, it's kind of obvious that, if two of them have to be Tom and Matt, that they're obviously going to bring certain things to the table. So then, since it didn't matter who the third person actually was, I knew what they were going to bring to the table.
Yeah. Well, I think that was like your writer brain, or I mean, maybe if I was like better at like sniffing out plot twists and stuff. But yeah, I was surprised.
So sad. So yeah.
Constantine in the chat said that she had no idea that Noel was Jane Farstrider. So I kind of picked up on some clues. I wasn't sure. So I figured it out before he revealed himself. It was earlier in this book, but there were multiple things that he had said in the past about Jane Farstrider. And I, in my head, thought that Jane Farstrider had lived a lot longer ago. So I was like, is he related to Jane Farstrider? Is he like Jane Farstrider reborn and somehow has his memory? Like, I knew there was some connection, but then at some point in this book, I don't remember what it said, but there was something that I was like, okay, I think he actually is Jane Farstrider. So I wasn't surprised by that.
Yeah, because you were saying something like last time.
Yeah, I pointed it out. I was like, there's something here, but I don't know what it is. And now I'm also like laughing because the first time Noel was introduced to us, he like saves Matt from the golem. And I was like, his timing was too good. I think he's evil. So he's totally not evil, which is hilarious. But yeah, I didn't know until this book that he was Jane Farstrider, but I did figure it out before it was revealed.
Yeah, I totally didn't see it coming at all. I was completely surprised.
Yeah. Ooh, someone in the chat, Stubble McShave, said, now that Rand has lost his hand, Matt has lost an eye, and Perrin has forged his hammer. Did you pick up on the similarities with the Norse gods Tyr, Thor, and Odin? No, I didn't know anything about that. Interesting.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I know a little bit about Norse gods, but not a lot. And I definitely didn't draw any connections between that. But that's interesting. I did not know Matt was going to lose his eye. I freaked out when when he was like, okay, I agree to give up half the light of the world. I was like, what does that mean? And then they took his eye out and I was like, oh my God. Totally freaked me out.
Yeah, seriously though. Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of your other favorite moments?
Nynaeve's test, her Aes Sedai test, now that she finally had to do it.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of intense.
That was really intense. Yeah. I was kind of glad that we had read New Spring, so it wasn't our first introduction, because if we hadn't read New Spring, then that would have been the first time we saw the Aes Sedai test. So it was cool that like we'd already seen it a little bit. There was actually a few things in this book, like some of the people that meet up with Lan that were introduced in that book. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. So I was glad that we read New Spring before this one. But yeah, her test was really intense. Her using Balefire in there, I was like, oh my God, it's going to break. Everything's going to be so bad. I mean, it didn't break, but yeah, it was not a good situation. Sorry, someone's calling me. Decline. It's my dad. So she did things in the test that she wasn't supposed to be able to do, like channel before she got to the star and things like that. And honestly, I wasn't that surprised because a similar thing happened during her accepted test. She did things that she wasn't supposed to be able to do. So I still don't get why. Like, why is Nynaeve special and she can do things that she's not supposed to be able to do inside those? I don't think it's just that she's like really strong. I think there's something about her. I don't know if we'll ever know, but yeah, I think there's something about her.
Yeah, exactly. Like that. Yeah, that didn't surprise me, but like how much stuff she had to go through that they were kind of purposely almost trying to scar her for life.
I know. And then the people afterwards who tried to say that she failed, I was like, you bitches, she did not fail. She like did it so good. She like beat you basically, and you're just mad about it. So I was really glad that they ended up deciding that she didn't fail. But yeah, I was like so mad that some of them were trying to say that they failed. And then some of them were like mad for Nynaeve, saying that they made the test way too hard, which I get.
Yeah, because they put her through some really intense stuff that she was just like, are you kidding me right now? And then yeah, like it would have been terrible if she had failed because not only was she already Aes Sedai this whole time, but also she was being all stubborn at the beginning and saying like instead of saying the actual words she's supposed to say, she said like, "I'm testing myself to prove the shawl that I've already been given."
Yeah.
Like all that stuff. Like,
oh, it was so funny.
Wrong words because she was changing it to fit her actual situation where she's actually, already been raised, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking, like, this is gonna be so bad if she fails. And so the whole time I'm just like, oh no, please don't fail, please don't fail. But yeah, that was so insane.
Yeah, no, that was really good. And I also loved that before she went to go take the test, she was telling Rand that she was going to go, and Rand was like, "Don't let them change you. Like you are already an Aes Sedai, and you're good the way you are." And that was like a really heartwarming moment.
Mm-hmm.
People in the chat, if you want to let us know what your favorite moments were, please do, and we can talk about them too. There were so many favorite moments in this book. This book made me laugh a lot. I don't know. So this is the first book that I attempted to like annotate. I didn't really annotate it, but I was like flagging things using a color-coded system. So I had a specific color. It was green for times that I laughed. And I laughed so many times. And it wasn't just in Matt's point of view, although most of them are Matt's point of view, but I laughed a lot while I was reading this book. Oh, it's gonna be so fun to like reread one day. I don't think I'm gonna tackle a reread anytime soon because this has been like 15, 16 months. But I know before I die, I'm gonna reread them. So probably maybe like when the show is coming out or something. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also another interesting thing about when they're saving Moiraine, one thing I thought was really awesome was when they're initially getting her out of the like mist that, causes pain when you walk through it and stuff. Like, of course it's Tom who can go through there because he wants to save her more than he's afraid of like getting hurt.
Were you surprised by their romance?
Not really, no. That is something we kind of got some hints of in like the first book. All that stuff, even though they spent most of the series not together or anything, I think we got enough clues initially in like the first book or so, maybe the second one as well, that they were gonna be a couple pretty much.
So I don't think I picked up on a lot of those clues at the very beginning. But I do remember thinking a little bit about it, mostly when they were apart and Tom kept reading the letter over and over and he kept talking about like the woman he failed or whatever. And just like the way he was talking about her, I was like, I think there's something here. And also, I think when she gives him the letter, that was like a really touching scene, but I wasn't like, oh, this is definitely romance at that point. So I wasn't like completely caught off guard, but I definitely was a little bit surprised. Like I was a little bit surprised, but not too surprised, I guess. I don't think there was a whole lot of build-up. I'm definitely going to have to look for it on my next reread. Look for it harder because I don't think it wasn't like super clear to me.
Yeah, for some reason I felt like that's a romance that had more build-up than like Nynaeve and Lan. For instance, it had, to me, I felt like there was a lot more build up for that one than like most of the romance in this book.
Yeah.
Even more than Rand and Min, really.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to have to look for it harder next time. But mostly when they were apart and the way that Tom was like reading the letter over and like talking about Moiraine, I was getting more of those vibes at that point. But I don't think I ever got it from Moraine's point of view, but I don't know. I'm going to have to see next time I read it. I was kind of surprised she just came out and said it was like, I want you to be my husband. And then Tom's like, and that means that I should be your warder. And I was like, oh, right. I mean, I was totally on board with it, but totally surprised me too. Not totally surprised me, a little bit surprised me. All right, we've got some people in the chat talking about their favorite stuff. Chauncey said, my favorite moment was Egwene standing up to Rand when he breezed into the hall of the tower and casually told her that he planned to break the seals. Egwene gets a lot of flack for that, but I loved it. That was really early in the book, too. That was like chapter 2 or something. That was a good moment. I yeah, I guess I hadn't really put too much thought into that one, but that is a good moment. And I'm not surprised that she stood up for that or stood up against him. I didn't know she gets a lot of flack for that. That's interesting. But I also think that like it's, I mean, I think it also makes a lot of sense why Rand wants to break the seals. So hopefully she can come around to that, conclusion. Like I don't think she's gonna start not a war, but she's got all these armies gathered and stuff. Like I don't think she's actually going to fight him over it, but I don't know. Stubble McShaved asks, what did you think of the second reunion between Tam and Rand? That brought a tear to my eye. Like I didn't cry, but that was very heartfelt. Rand runs up to him and like hugs him and starts crying, and then was like, "I want to introduce you to Min. She's very special to me." That got me.
It was really cute. I agree.
Yeah, it was so cute. I love that. And Rand obviously is very changed. I noticed that we didn't get any point of views from Rand at all in this book, so we don't know what it's like inside his head, but it seems like Lews Therin and him have like completely merged and are just like one person now. And Rand also seems to have some very interesting powers. Like when he goes back to, I don't know where they were, Kyrian maybe, and he lines up all the nobles and is just like looking at them in their eye, and then he can tell which ones are dark friends. I was like, what? And also when he went to visit Egwene, he can tell just by looking at Gareth Bryn that him and Swan are bonded, and I'm just like, how does he know these things? And there were multiple other things throughout the book where he like knows things that I'm just like, how do you know these things? Something happened to him.
Maybe it's all the memories, like all the fact that he and Lews Therin are completely merged at that point. Like all the life experience. All that stuff tells you a lot.
Maybe it's something that he's like learned in his previous life, how to read. I don't know. But that doesn't make sense. I feel like if in the Age of Legends they had the ability to just look at somebody and know if they're a dark friend, like, I don't know. There's something special going on there. I don't know what it is.
Maybe, yeah.
Chansony said, both Tom and Moraine are too skilled at Days Daymar to have an effusive, passionate courtship. That is true. They are both really good at Days Daymar. I was about to say the Game of Thrones. Is that Days Daymar doesn't actually mean the Game of Thrones, right? It just means something
Game
similar.
of Houses.
Game of Houses. There you go. I was like, that's not the right word.
Just basically, that's what it is. Though.
Right. It is basically, but I knew that wasn't like literally what the translation was, but that's like what popped into my head. Robert Jordan has a very tight third limited, and since we have few POVs from the romance persons you mentioned, it's true, we don't see inside their heads very often. People in the fan community think that Egwene should have just rolled over and agreed with Rand because of their childhood bond, but Egwene is Amyrlin and she has to put the Aes Sedai first. I agree, Chantini, that it makes sense to me that she would originally stand against wanting to break the seals, because when you first hear that, that sounds insane. But I'm hoping that she'll come around and we'll be able to understand why. Oh, somebody, W.C. McPherson said, nah, that confrontation was definitely coming. Egwene embodied all the Amyrlin seat was at this point. So yeah, I think it makes sense that she stood up to Rand against that, because it sounds crazy. Mm-hmm. Even when she tells the wise ones in Teleron Riyadh, they're like, he wants to do what? So yeah, I think it sounds crazy. But I also think it makes sense, and especially based on all the prophecies and stuff. Like, yeah. So we'll see what happens there. I thought that the book was going to end with him breaking the seals, but it didn't. I guess that's one of the small complaints I have about this book, that the main epic thing that happened, I guess, was Moraine being I was going to say captured, but the opposite of captured.
Released.
Yeah, saved. That's the word. Saved. But it just didn't seem like as epic of an ending as what I wanted for the book. So I thought that the book was going to end with the seals being broken. But I guess that's how the next book is going to open instead.
And I think probably the because not every single book can like have an epic ending, and I think since obviously the next one's the last one, it'll probably have a really epic ending. So they probably didn't want to have have it be.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, basically the last battle is about to start. So there was one scene where Perrin like finally arrives at this meeting place that everyone's at, and he sees all the other armies, and he's like, okay, this is it. The last battle's about to start. And I like got chills. I was like, oh my God, it's gonna start, because we've been waiting for it for so long. Let's see, what other awesome things happened? So we saw from the Shan-chan point of view at some point, it was from Tu-Wan's point of view, and she has Elida. It was when Elida basically was showing that she knew how to travel or whatever, and that was pretty vindicating, like to see Elida in that position, and she's like, but I'm the Amyrlin, and I felt good about that.
Yeah, I had a feeling we'd run into her again at some point.
Yeah. But it is scary that the Shan-chan now have traveling. And speaking of the Shan-chan, what did you think about Aviendha's visions of the future? Do you remember that part? So she goes to do her test to become a wise one, and I was hoping we'd see that, but it sounds like when you do that test or whatever, or it's not, it doesn't seem like it's really a test. You just see basically the same thing that Rand saw when he went through the pillars or whatever. So they didn't show that to us. But then she decides to go back, and even though you're not supposed to go through them twice, she decides to try going through them again. And she actually sees into the future. It's like way into the future, and then it starts coming back closer and closer, and she like in the end like sees the next generation, like her kids with Rand and stuff, and all of that was really interesting. But basically shows that like the Shan-chan are going to take over and like kill the Aiel, and it seemed like a very grim future, and I wasn't happy about that. But I mean, so I guess I'm frustrated with Tu-Wan because in the last book or the book before that, like I wish that she had made a pact with Rand, but I guess that would have been too easy. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to that future, and hopefully, and when Aviendha leaves there, she's wondering is this set in stone, or is this something I can change? But she feels like it was a pretty sure future or something. I mean, I hope it can change. We'll see. Yeah. But it also made me think about like, well, if this future exists, does that mean that Rand's definitely going to win? I mean, I really do think Rand is going to win, but it just seemed weird to have that be it, like her to see the future like that.
Yeah, because also the thing is too that it's always, because the future is never really set in stone in a way, and it's always possible that she was shown that future because
she could change it.
Something to change it.
I hope so. But it was interesting to see like her kids and like, because it talked a little bit about the structure, I guess, of the royalty and stuff, and like the Aiel have a very close relationship with the Andorrans, and there were multiple people at different points in the future that were like children or like related to the dragon, and like it was really cool to see, but it was very grim at the same time.
Yeah.
Interesting. But it was cool to see from her, because we haven't seen Aviendha since she left. We haven't heard anything about her. So, another thing that was weird was when she was on her way to the pillars, some random woman shows up and like shares a meal with her and disappears. And like, I have no idea who that is. I don't know what that was. That was really interesting.
That's a good point. That is kind of weird.
I mean, even Aviendha, at first Aviendha doesn't think anything of it, but then the woman like disappears and takes her stuff. She says she's gonna go pee, and then she doesn't come back, and then Aviendha goes to look for her, and then comes back and her stuff is gone. And so Aviendha is suspicious about who she was, but at first I thought maybe it was like one of the Forsaken or something. Like I was thinking, worst case scenario, but she seemed to know Aiel ways and like how the Aiel talk really well. And so and she obviously didn't do anything to hurt her. So I don't think that's what it was, but I don't know who it was.
I don't
Very
know.
random. Let me try to remember some of my other favorite moments. Oh, we could talk about Perrin. A lot of Perrin stuff happened in this book. We already talked about him meeting with Golod. When he ended up saving them, like he knew that there was some sort of trap going on, and he comes back to where the White Cloaks are to save them. And Elaine and even Fael are like, is he going to attack them? Like, I don't understand what's happening. I wasn't really sure. I knew that he wasn't going to attack the White Cloaks, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen. So I was a little bit surprised by the Trollocs and everybody showing up there. But I knew that, who's it, Grandal, said that she had a trap she wanted to spring. So that is another thing. In the prologue, we find out that Grandal didn't die. Like, that whole scene blew my mind, because basically she saw Rand using the Choden Call, and she like knew that he was going to use Balefire, and so she traps an Aes Sedai, like a Black Aja Aes Sedai, Delana and Arengar there, and leaves. And so I was like really nervous, obviously, because Rand thinks that she's dead and she's not. But she didn't do anything. She wasn't successful in anything too terrible in this book, I guess. And it looks like she's in big trouble, because at the end of the book, Shaidar Haran came and like is punishing her. People in the chat said Grandal is no dummy, but Arengar definitely was a dummy. W.C. McPherson said, she is such a snake, I was not surprised that she escaped. Johnson said, Grandal is so awesome. I mean, kind of awesome, but she's also very evil.
Well, awesome and evil are not mutually exclusive necessarily.
It's true. Oh, and so Grandal is given a dream spike, and then that ends up affecting so many things, because Perrin ends up getting it from Slayer, who is Esam/Luke or Luck. And then I was so annoyed with Perrin, because he's like, trying to take the dream spike away from where his people are so that they can use gateways to escape or whatever. And of all the places to go, he goes to Tar Valon, where Egwene is currently trying to fight the Black Aja and Masana. I'm like, great timing, Perrin. Like, you brought it here and you trapped them there. But I mean, I guess it ended up being a good thing, because of that, the Black Aja weren't able to like lead the fight somewhere else, and Egwene was able to kill Masana. So many names.
Yeah, and I also thought that all the wolf stuff was really awesome in this book. Like, we see so much more stuff where Perrin is going into the wolf dream and doing all kinds of things. And it kind of brought me back to like when I was like 11 and 12, I was like obsessed with Julie of the Wolves and like every other wolf fantasy or historical fiction or any kind of wolf book at all that I could get my hands on. And for some reason, a lot of Perrin's chapters in this book reminded me a lot of that stuff. It totally made me think of that. Like,
yeah.
it was really similar.
Yeah. It made me think about, I've read a book that's like from the point of view of a wolf, and it made me think about that a lot. And one of my favorite things about like the first few books, I guess the first one is when he really starts to discover this wolf stuff. Like, that was like one of my favorite things. I look at it as being like a twist on being a werewolf, and I just think that it's really cool. So he did learn a lot about the wolf dream in this book. And I thought that he picked up on how to control Teleron like really fast compared to Egwene and the other girls that tried to learn how to be good in Teleron. Like, yeah, he's been in the Wolf Dream for a long time over the last like all of the series, but he never got serious about how like learning how to control it until this book. And once he did, he like learned it pretty quick, I feel like. So that was really cool too.
Yeah, I think so. And then like all the stuff about how everything he learns about how many like people who have lost their humanity completely just because they get so invested in the wolf dream they like lose themselves.
Mm-hmm. It was cool that he found, I don't remember what his name was, but the guy that he met at the beginning of the series that was completely wolf, and then he learns from talking to him in the wolf dream that that was a choice that he made. Like he chose to want to be fully wolf because Perrin was so worried about like losing himself, and that's not really something that he needed to worry about. And he learns that at the end, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed so hard when Perrin has a dream spike and he's trying to escape Slayer and he runs into Egwene in Teleron and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "What are you doing here?" And they're both like, "It's dangerous. You shouldn't be here." And then one of the Black Aja pops up and tries to use balefire on him and he just like thinks it away. And Egwene was so surprised because like she knew that you can control things in Teleron just using your thoughts, but I don't think she realized that you could undo weaves. Like, because she uses weaves all the time, and if you can just like think the weaves away, I think was a really interesting thing for her to learn. And I think that that really aided her in defeating Masana.
Yeah, because that was kind of interesting because yeah, just thinking away.
Balefire, which is like one of the most powerful weaves ever. That was crazy.
Yeah, because that is kind of on a whole other level from the stuff that she knew that you can do in Teleron Reload, which is basically everything.
Right. Right. W.C. McPherson said the wolves are what was interesting about Perrin's storyline, not the horrible rescue of Fail. Yes, I think many people would agree with you. Shansani said Masana was kind of awesome herself. She successfully split the White Tower and managed to manipulate Elida and other non-dark friends like Ramonda and Elaine through the Black Aja. It's true. W.C. McPherson said, I don't think Jordan gave her a good ending, though. Yeah. Yeah. I was kind of surprised at how easily, I mean, it wasn't super easy, but to be able to break her mind like that just by unthinking her weaves or whatever Masana was doing to Egwene, I guess it seems a little bit easy, but I don't know. I think she got what she deserved. Shansani said, same with Semirog. They deserved better. Yeah, they could have gotten more epic deaths, I suppose. I didn't think too much about it. Oh, Stubble McShave asks, what did you think of Matt's way of defeating the golem? Definitely wanted to talk about this. So when Matt first finds out that the golem is in the town in Camelin and he goes to his tent and he smells blood, my first thought was like, oh my God, Oliver. But of course, Oliver is fine. I mean, poor Lupin. I was sad about that. But I definitely thought it was Oliver at first, which Matt doesn't even think about until afterwards. But yeah, the way that he laid out that trap, I didn't realize it was a trap until the very end. And I was just like, oh my God, this is not going to go well. I was so nervous, especially because he kept losing or not kept, but he lost the medallion. He like threw it into the burning building. And I was like, oh no, now he doesn't have a medallion to fight back. And then all of a sudden he like pulls out two more. And I was like, heck yes, man. That was awesome. And then having him fall, because he's like, the golem is like almost impossible to kill. Like they couldn't figure out a way to do it. So to think about having him fall into like the blackness of the traveling realm or whatever, like that was pretty genius.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was really good. And actually that reminds me of the whole debacle that was Elaine trying to get more information out of the Black Aja that she had captured. That went so terribly.
So
As soon
terribly.
as she said that she was going to do this, and like she was glad that Brigetti was gone and talking to Matt so that she could go do this by herself, I was just like, Elaine, have you learned nothing? Like, she is one of the most frustrating characters and makes the stupidest decisions. I was so mad.
I mean, literally, yeah, like she's still doing all kinds of reckless stuff when she's pregnant just because Min said, oh, well, you are going to have the babies, they're going to be healthy. So she thinks that that means like nothing bad will happen to her. And literally, Brigitta says exactly what I was thinking. Like, you can lose an arm and your babies will still be healthy, but you don't want to lose an arm. Like,
right.
you know,
Yeah. And even like this is after she was captured by the Black Aja before too. Like, she's already made a dumb decision that resulted in her getting captured, and Brigitta had to save her. Now she's gonna go make another dumb decision. I was so frustrated.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, she like does not think about stuff at all.
No, not at all. Sean Sinney said, Elaine, have you learned nothing should be the subtitle of all her chapters. True. She makes the dumbest decisions. I was just like, oh my God, why are you? I mean, at first it seemed like it was working. She was intimidating, but I was like, this is going to go downhill. I just know it. And it definitely did.
Yeah, I was kind of like throughout the past couple books almost, I've kept thinking like, what if she gets captured and has to have the babies there? Like, what's what's gonna happen there?
Yeah, that would have been scary. She's definitely frustrating. Let's see, what else happened in this book?
Are these babies even gonna be born during this series? Are we even gonna see what happens to them at all? Like,
I bet it's in an epilogue.
maybe.
Yeah. Okay, so Elaine is successful in getting the throne of Kyrian. When she first said that she was going to take over Kyrian or take the throne, she kept saying that she's gonna like seize the throne, and she was talking about like armies and stuff, and I was like, really? You're gonna go like fight them for it? Like, I wasn't really on board with that. I was fine with the way that it ended up because she just like did a bunch of political maneuvering and worked it out. But if like she was thinking about using the dragons, the cannons, like against Kyrian and stuff, and I'm like, girl, this is not the time for that. The last battle's coming. I'm just looking through my notes. Oh, we could talk about stuff that happened on in the Borderlands with Rotel Ituralda. I don't think I got his first name right, but that Ituralda guy. Man, some of that stuff was making me really nervous. I was so nervous about what was going to happen because things were looking really grim at certain points. I thought that they were going to fall. I thought he was going to die. It's pretty intense. I was glad that Rand came and saved him at the end. But it was also really interesting that the guy that he confronted and was like, are you a dark friend? Because like, I don't understand why you wouldn't have helped me, because obviously I was fighting the Trollocs and stuff. And the guy's like, me? A dark friend? Like, I can't believe you would say that about me. And then we find out that he actually was a dark friend. I laughed because he like goes crazy. I laughed so hard at that.
It's always the people who say they're not a dark friend.
They're acting all like shocked and like offended, and they actually are.
Yeah.
The part where, okay, so let's talk about Gawain. So he keeps trying to tell Egwene that he doesn't think it's the Black Aja who's doing these murders. And she's not listening. She's convinced. And I was with Gawain. I was like, they would be using the power if they were really the Black Aja doing the murder. So I knew that something else was going on, but I didn't realize what it was until when he fought against one and was saying like, oh, I couldn't really see him, and he was moving around a lot, and there was like darkness around him. That's when I remembered about the Shan-Chan assassins. Like, I had totally forgotten that the Shan-Chan had sent assassins until that scene. And then it takes a little while before Gawain finds out from one of the Shanchan who they are. And then when he goes back to save Egwene, I thought he was gonna die because those blades that they use, they're poisoned too. Like he kept saying, like, I'm losing too much blood and like I'm gonna pass out. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, but they're poisoned. Like you need to be healed. And Egwene was sleeping. She was stuck in the dream because of the dream spike. And I was just like, oh my God, Gawain's gonna die right now. I was so nervous. But I was glad that he didn't die. And she woke up in time and like she was like, I don't have I'm not good at healing, so I can't heal you totally. And so I was like, oh my God, he's still gonna die. But then she ended up bonding him and it worked out.
Yeah, I was kind of afraid that he was going to die too, and I thought that would have been tragic to have happened before they've sorted everything out, because she's trying to like make him understand all kinds of crap about like you actually have to like listen to me, blah blah blah, and so like makes him go away and all that crap. And so I was like, it'd be too sad if he like died before they even sorted anything out.
Yeah, I was gonna be really sad if he died before they like got to be Aes Sedai and Warder and like were a couple. I mean, they are a couple, but you know, before they were on good terms.
Yeah.
Sean Zini said, "You can definitely tell that Elaine and Gawain are siblings." It's true. They both make bad decisions. They're both dumb.
Definitely a good point.
So in this book, Perrin makes a hammer that is made with the power. So that was pretty cool. Like I knew that something with the hammer was going to happen because the cover of my book, because I have this version, has Perrin with a big hammer on it. So
that's
like
a really badass picture.
It is, I know. And so I knew there was going to be like awesome stuff in this book about Perrin. But that was cool to see. Oh, I just pulled my headphones out. Sorry. But that was cool to see him make it. And he even put like a little wolf on it for Hopper. Oh my gosh. I was sad. I didn't cry, but I was sad when Hopper like officially died. Because now he's not even in the dream anymore. It's all freaking Slayer's fault. I hope Slayer dies before the end of the book or the series. Like he makes me so angry. He killed so many wolves.
A wolf, gosh darn it! Like,
yeah,
seriously.
Yeah, I was actually when Perrin was on trial, I was kind of surprised that he talked about the wolves and like gave out his secret. I mean, I guess it was like not that much of a secret because people knew something was up, but to say it so publicly, I was surprised that he did that.
Mm-hmm.
But then Morgase is like kind of like brushes it off and just says that it's like the same thing as killing a pet or a livestock. And I'm like, no, it's not. But I was happy with the way that all ended up, with Morgase saying that it was like a dispute between mercenaries and it doesn't have to be like result in death. And she left it up to Galad to decide. And then once Perrin saves him, Galad says that he just has to pay some money, which I thought was cool. I liked that that solution. Okay, Lan, we could talk about Lan. He has been gathering people even though he tried so hard not to. I thought that was funny. He kept finding more and more people. And one of the people that came up to him, I marked it with a green tab because I laughed so hard, but he basically was like, I didn't mean for these people to follow me. Like I wanted to go into the Borderlands, not the Borderlands, the whatever it's called. I wanted to go alone. And the guy was like, can I go alone with you? I was like, oh my God. He said, can I go alone with you? If you come with him, he's not alone, you dummy. I laughed so hard. Rand's meeting with the Borderlanders. Hold on, let me check the chat real quick. Oh, someone said, Robert S. Minger said that he had goosebumps when Perrin was doing the blacksmithing. That was definitely a really cool scene. And I don't think I even really knew that you could use the power in any way, like when you're making weapons like that. So that was cool. WZ McPherson said Slayer sucks. Yes,
Yes.
Slayer sucks. But they liked Galad, which surprised me. Yeah, I previously have not liked Galad very much because he's just, I don't know, he's annoying. He's always doing the right thing, but it's always something that like gets in our way as far as like the plot and like the main characters. But in this book, he kind of got on my good side again. I'm glad that he doesn't think Perrin is a dark friend, so that was cool. Oh yeah, we were talking about Lan. And so he gathers these people. And so I was glad that at the end of all of that, he basically was like, okay, I'm going to lead these people into the last battle. And he gives a really good speech about, like, I know I tabbed it, but I've got so many tabs, I don't know which one it is. But he gives a really good speech about, you know, leading the Malkir, the last of the Malkir, into the last battle and stuff. And that also gave me a little bit of goosebumps. We've got about 12 minutes left. So if anybody in the chat has more things that they want to make sure we discuss, please put them in the chat now so that we don't miss them. Something I kind of want to talk about is the ending of the book. Well, not obviously the ending, but at the very end of the epilogue, we get a little excerpt from the Prophecies of the Shadow, which we didn't know existed until this book. And it's Greyendal who learns about them at the beginning of the book. And she said something about how like this says that Perrin's going to die. Oh my gosh, I was so scared that Perrin was going to die in this book, and I'm still scared that he's going to die in the next book because apparently it's in the Prophecies of the Shadow, but we get like 3 paragraphs of the Prophecies of the Shadow. I just want to read, I think, the middle paragraph because like I don't understand it. Okay. So it said, in that day when the one-eyed fool travels to the halls of mourning, which is obviously Matt going to the Tower of Genji. And then it says, and the first among vermin lifts his hand to bring freedom to him who will destroy. I don't know who the first among vermin is, but obviously somebody who is going to free the Dark One. The last days of the fallen blacksmith's pride shall come. So that's saying that the last days of Perrin are going to come. Yea, and the broken wolf, the one whom death has known, shall fall and be consumed by the midnight towers. And his destruction shall bring fear and sorrow to the hearts of men and shall shake their very will itself. So that was something that I've been wondering. So the title of this book is Towers of Midnight, and the Midnight Towers are mentioned in this prophecy, and I don't know what these towers are. Do you have any idea what the Towers of Midnight are?
That is a good question. I was kind of wondering the same thing because initially, before I actually started reading the book, like when I knew that once I knew that they were going to the Tower of Genji, I thought that I was like, oh, Towers of Midnight, of course they're going to a tower, and then I was like, but that's just a tower, singular.
Right.
So clearly, that's not what they're talking about.
So the only thing that I can I still don't know what it means, but the only thing that comes to mind is Egwene, in one of her visions when she's in or one of her like dreams with a capital D, she sees a bunch of towers that are black and they rise and fall. And in the end, she's left with 6 towers that are left. I don't know what that means, but that they were black towers, like Towers of Midnight, but I don't know. Yeah. And then the last paragraph says, and then shall the Lord of the evening come, which I think that's Rand. And no, that's not Rand. That's the Dark One. And he shall take our eyes, for our soul shall bow before him, and he shall take our skin, for our flesh shall serve him, and he shall take our lips, for only him we will praise. So I think I know what that means. There were, especially in the Black Tower, there were like the people that are there that are not Dark Friends started to say that the people they were talking to weren't the same anymore, and that like they had all of the memories, and they they looked like them, but they could tell that there was something wrong. So I think that now that we're getting close to the last battle, the Dark One is able to like control the Dark Friends and has like taken over their minds basically. So they are kind of the same person, but they're not. Like it's actually the Dark One controlling them.
Mm.
Did you pick up on that? Where the when they're at the Black Tower, there were a few scenes. One's from an Aes Sedai's point of view. Pavara, she says that Tarna, the other Aes Sedai there, like isn't really her anymore. And then one of the like Ashaman, he's not quite an Ashaman, he's like one of the lower ranks, said that as well about some of the other ones. Oh, and the other thing that I realized is because they can't leave, they've been trying to open gateways. So when Grandal got her dream spike, Morden said that there were 2 dream spikes. Now, the second one is obviously here. I don't know if Taim himself has it or if there's somebody else there. But I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Taim is a Dark Friend at this point, and he has the other dream spike, and he's been gathering a bunch of male channelers who are also Dark Friends. And I think he's got some Forsaken too, because one of the things somebody said was that like, I don't know where the Mahale is getting all of these recruits these days, but I don't like them. They all like seem like bad guys, and some of them are really strong and have learned really quickly. And I think that's like some Forsaken. And then the last little bit says, and the Lord of the Evening shall face the broken champion, who is Rand, and shall spill his blood and bring us the darkness so beautiful. Let the screams begin, O followers of the shadow, beg for your destruction. Ugh, sounds so foreboding.
I know, it sounds really ominous.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a prophecy for the shadow, but still. The one-eyed fool. Matt is a fool. Okay, let me read the chat. Shansani said, Galad is one of my favorite characters. He's he is a well-intentioned extremist, but very principled. Yes, but sometimes he was annoying me, but in this book, he made the right choices.
I keep expecting something more to happen with the fact that Galad is Rand's brother. Like, I keep expecting like him to be used against Rand in some particular way.
But nobody knows that except for Rand. Rand's the only one who knows, so I don't know if he's ever going to say or what. Yeah. Shansani thinks that the first among vermin is Moradin / Ishamael, which that makes sense. But it said that he was going to release the Dark One from his prison, but Rand is going to do that. So that's why I was confused about that. But I'm sure he's going to help. Paradigm Flux said the towers are the Forsaken. Yeah, I could see that. Someone said, shouldn't the Tower of Midnight be the Black Tower? It could be, but it's towers. Like we said, there's more than one, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of weird, because also, if you think of Lord of the Rings, the two towers are not related to each other in any sort of, the 2 towers that's referring to are 2 completely different towers.
Yeah.
2 completely different like parts of the book, et cetera, et cetera. So it could be something similar here where it's not necessarily the same. It's not necessarily like there are 2 towers like of Midnight that are right there.
Yeah.
Or multiple towers or anything.
Double McShave said the Towers of Midnight could refer to either Egwene's dream of the 13 falling dark towers, which is the dream I was referring to, which Stubble McShave thinks those are the Forsaken, which that makes sense. I didn't realize there were, like, I didn't pay too close attention to the numbers, but if there were 13 Forsaken to begin with and only 6 are left, and that's kind of like how the towers worked out, that would make sense.
Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Or the towers in Shan-Chan that are referenced in the book. I don't remember those towers in Shan-Chan. So many things referenced in the book, but I believe you, Stubble McShave. I kind of think it's the Forsaken and her dream, but I don't know. That's also very subtle. It's going to drive me nuts, like not knowing exactly what the title refers to, because I love when you know, like, oh, this is what the title means. Shansani said Towers of Midnight could refer to the Tower of Genji, the White Tower, and the Black Tower, since there are dark happenings in all of these places. That is true as well.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any things about this book that you didn't like before we end?
Not really. I mean, I do kind of wish there was more of like an explanation of why the Tower of Genji is such a weird place, like why it's even like that, and why that's even where Moraine ended up. Like, because that all seems kind of like.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Aelfin and the Eelfin live in like another realm, and the Tower of Genji is just like a portal to their realm. I don't know if we'll ever learn more about that. One thing that I thought was really interesting was once Mat has like escaped and like basically defeated the Aelfin and the Eelfin, Oliver beats the game that's like supposed to be impossible to beat. And so I thought that was really interesting. I wonder if that's like just like a one-time thing that he won, or if like something about the game is actually tied to like the present time of what's going on in the world of the Aelfin and the Eelfin.
Mm-hmm.
So that was interesting. Oh, someone asked about what we thought about Mat's letter to Egwene. It was freaking hilarious. Do you remember his letter? I definitely marked that because it was so funny. I don't know if I can find it though, of course. But he like had so many words that he misspelled. Oh yeah, here it is. Your royal your royal bloody pain in my back. We're bloody waiting here to talk to you, and we're getting angry / perturbed. That means angry. I guess I won't read the whole thing, but it was hilarious. It's on page 183 in my book. And he he misspells words. He cusses a lot. He like will write a word and then like mark it out and write something else. And then he's constantly saying, that means this. And it was so funny.
Yeah, I remember.
And at the very end, he like throws in, it says PPS. Don't mind me calling your backside pretty. I hardly ever spent any time looking at it, as I've an awareness that you'd pulled my eyes out if you saw me. Besides, I'm married now, so that all doesn't matter. And then later he regrets putting in the letter that he was married because she asked him about it and he like doesn't want to talk about it. I also think it's really funny that he keeps denying that he is a lord now. And and Tom is like, what do you think Prince of the Raven means? Like, you were definitely a lord. And he was like, he doesn't believe that he's a lord.
I think Mat is seriously one of my favorite characters in this.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Now.
Hands down my favorite. Dude, and then whenever Perrin shows up in Camelin and someone is like throwing rocks at him, I did not expect it to be Mat, but of course it's Mat, and Perrin's like, what are you doing out here? And he's like, I'm catching a badger, and he had like a badger in a bag. I was like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Sean Sinney said, I didn't like the idea of Mat literally penetrating an ivory tower to rescue the princess, but it was executed so well. Honestly, I didn't even like make that connection, but I guess that's true. It is kind of like a trope, but definitely was kind of put on his head a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happens throughout this series. There are a lot of tropes that get put on their heads.
Mm-hmm. Sean Smith said, we already knew that Lanfear survived, with quotations, so it was no surprise that Moraine did also. But I think that's a little bit different because she didn't really survive. She like died and then was reincarnated. So I think they're different. And I was surprised when I found out that Moraine lived because she was gone for so long and there were like no hints that she was alive. So.
Do we even really know how it was that she survived? Like, really, there's not a whole lot said about that.
Just that they were like trying to savor her and like eat her access to the power like really slowly. I was surprised when she got out and she's like not as strong anymore in the power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean also how she got there from her defeat of Lanfear that killed her and everything. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy that that's suddenly where she shows up and it's somewhere completely different.
It's not somewhere completely different though, right? Like she going through the archway like takes you to the land of the Aelfin and the Eelfin.
Yeah, I guess
And
that makes sense. So then if the
yeah.
tower is that takes you to the same place, yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Sean Snee said that Matt is one of my least favorite characters. Ta'veren luck powers, other people's memories giving him genius intellect. I just never saw anything Matt did was due to Matt's agency. I mean, I see it, but I love him.
I mean, he's like the wittiest character. He says like the funniest stuff. That
I think he has agency. He makes dumb decisions and like he tries to.
Like, a lot of it is the dumb decisions. Like, a lot of what makes him funny and everything is the dumb decisions. Like how he, you know, when he doesn't know that Egwene is the Amerlin, and he's like doing that, like whoever's stupid enough to be the Amerlin, and he's literally talking to her.
Yes.
Like that stuff, and you're like, oh my gosh, Matt. Like everything, like it is the bad decisions.
He always says the wrong thing.
Like he has a gift of saying profoundly the wrong things and everything, and that's what makes him like so entertaining, because he's so completely different from everyone else in this whole series, where it's like, how do you even go about life and have everything be like that?
Yeah, and I do get that a lot of his stuff has to do with his luck, but I love how that was like wound into his character. But I do think that he still makes decisions. He tries to like escape things and like do the opposite of what he's supposed to do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we are over an hour at this point. We had a lot of great discussion. Thanks everybody who joined us, and we will be back with the very last book in about a month.
Exact date TBA.
Yeah, we'll announce it soon, or like probably mid-month. When we announce it, when the next one will be. But it'll be around, like the same time on a Saturday in about a month. All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. Bye.
Bye.